Okay, well, I think because we're scheduled at noon, right?
Hmm.
Well, noon Central Time. So
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and start and kind of just go through um the the session, and then I'm sure we'll have some joining in, and it looks like, let's see, Jennifer. I don't see Jennifer yet, but I think she'll probably jump in as well. So,
Okay.
um, anyhow, okay, so we are so glad to have you all on board for our um, last of the 4 sessions, summer series sessions for curriculum planning. And it's really nice to have a topic that is becoming more and more across the United States, more and more important, and that's curriculum transparency engagement. And so I'm really honored today to introduce, here's our agenda, which is we're going to talk about the guiding questions, and I'll introduce our 2 co-hosts today, and you are going to be in for a treat to hear from them. We'll look at some best practices, and then we'll have some Q&A as well. So let's start off. I want to introduce Christy Hoffine. She's the director of secondary ed, CTE, and probably 100 more hats from Bonner Springs. And Sarah Andeverde, who is the director of federal and state programs. So you know that encompasses a whole realm of accountability and coordination. And then I am Kim Tunnell, and I am part of Education Advanced after retiring from 35 years in public education. And so we're really glad to have you on board today. And we're going to jump in and start off with our guiding question for today's session is, what are the factors to consider in community engagement and transparency of curriculum? So Christy, I don't know if you want to start, or Sarah, but you can both kind of jump in and talk about, from the different lenses, what are some of the factors that you guys utilize in Bonner Springs?
Okay, sure. Sarah, I'll go ahead and start if you're all right with that, and then jump in whenever, interrupt too. Well, thanks again for having us, Kim. We kind of see it as 2 levels of community, like that first one with staff, our internal community, and then one with parents, our business partners, and community members, the external community. So I think some of the factors that are really important is that message, how that message is approached, that level of commitment and investment, and then that we clearly communicate our goal, which is we're here for our students. We're here to help all of our kids be successful, not only in each grade level in school, but post-secondary. We want to equip them with the skills once they leave Bonner Springs. So with staff, really, we went through some trials and error over the past years, but we've got a really great plan in place for this year. But with staff, transparency is vital. Not all teachers love curriculum. Not all of them love to deconstruct standards. They just want to know, some teachers just want to know, what do I need to teach? But it is essential, we find it essential that all teachers understand, here's what we're teaching, here's why we're teaching it, and here's the strategies that we're using, so that the skills build from one another from year to year. So it's important in 3rd grade that they know they're doing X, Y, Z, because we're going to build on it in 4th grade and so on. We don't have unlimited time. I mean, this is not just something special to USD 204, but we don't have unlimited time. So we need to be intentional in what we're teaching and how we're teaching. And we want to make sure that we're utilizing best practices and the most effective strategies, and that takes time. So we're really fortunate in Bonner Springs that we've embedded time in collaboration time for teachers. So teams of teachers get to work together, whether it's grade level teams or specialized teams, get to work together during the school day to talk about curriculum and standards and strategies and do some data analysis so that we can readjust in real time. If learning is not taking place, let's do something about it right now and go in real time. But that it's a living document, we all know this. We're striving for continuous improvement. So that message for teachers is really important. They need to know the district's invested, that all their leaders in the building and across are committed to this. We're going to provide time and we're going to support them in the endeavors that we're going to take. It's not easy, and we know that. It's not a 5-minute task, one and done. It takes some time. Not everybody loves it. Some people, that's their passion. And then we always reiterate our goal. we're here for kids. That's what we signed up to do. We're here to help every single kid be successful, no matter what package they bring to the table. And the message, I think, is similar. I'm probably going on, so Sarah, if you want to jump in, you can, but the message for our external community is pretty much the same. We really want our parents and our business industry partners and our community members to understand all those things. Our goal, number one, is we're here for kids and to help kids be successful. So we're going to do everything we can to put really quality learning experiences in place. But we want to welcome our parents and community members to partner with us. We want to build that partnership. That's important to us. So we've done some marketing strategies to help bring those partnerships a little bit closer and strengthen those. But basically, we send out to parents that we follow the Kansas state standards. That's not always easy to understand, especially if you're a non-educator. So we tried to find a way to make it easy for parents to understand and navigate and how it relates to student performance. We want to try to share our learning experiences that we have, you know, in every grade level, but why it's important to have those, because it adds to that vertical cohesiveness. So that as the students go through our school district, they're acquiring the skills, not only for that grade level, for that school year, but for all the time that they're here with us, pre-K through 12 and beyond. You know, we're excited when our kids come back and say, hey, when I did this experience, or I had that work-based learning experience, this really helped me in choosing what I wanted to do for my major. So I guess in summary, just that message is so important, how it comes off, and that it's conveyed genuinely, that all leaders are committed and invested to it. And that we always say, we're here for kids. And when you start with that, it's kind of easy to stay focused on that point, not kind of get off in the weeds.
Absolutely. I think that student-centered approach adds such a needed element to the conversation. Sarah?
I think, I mean, I ditto everything Christy said. The only thing I think I want to add too, just in terms of like transparency across our curriculum, is, you know, we really try to give our teachers, and Christy mentioned this, time to work on curriculum that's built into our school year, and have teachers in every area participate. But part of that comes to making sure that, like, if you go to any elementary school in our district, you're going to have the same experience, you know, regardless of which we serve 3 different communities, and regardless of which community you live in, having that opportunity for teachers to collaborate and really making sure that we're following those standards and having really rich conversations on what is best for kids. It's not about, you know, which elementary school you go to, making sure that we're following, you know, state standards and giving kids those experiences. So even if they leave us in Bonner Springs and go elsewhere, we know that we've created that really strong foundation for them. And then if they come back, you know, they can pick right back up where they left off. So I think that's, you know, really an important part of kind of having that transparency as we're open and honest. And then I think at building levels, that community engagement, having parents in, having community leaders come in and work with our kids on, you know, learning-based experience, have an engineer come in and work with our students, and making parents aware and asking them to come in really provides that engagement and showing, like, these are the really great things that we're doing for our kids. And it goes well beyond, you know, maybe a textbook or a worksheet or whatever. There are so many bigger experiences that we can provide students. And when we have that kind of curriculum out there and they know what we're doing, we have so many parents like, oh, hey, I know you're working on this coming up. I have a friend that's a veterinarian, like maybe we can connect and do a Zoom. Or we had a photographer at the middle school last year who lives in California, but zoomed in with an art class to really talk about how she, you know, edits her artwork. And it wasn't anybody that we'd maybe have access to if we hadn't involved our community. But it was a really cool experience to watch with our kiddos. So, you know, that student foundation and focus on them is really what's important for us here. And I think we really can't go wrong if that's where our focus is maintained.
Yeah, and I think you guys both brought up a really important piece, and that is equity. You know, we're charged with providing equity for every child. And it shouldn't matter, like you mentioned, Sarah, which elementary school they attend, or I'll even venture to say, like you brought up, Christy, what classroom teacher is assigned to them. Equitable access to the same standard-driven, high-quality curriculum and resources levels that playing field for every child. So I appreciate you bringing that up. How have you utilized transparency? I know that you've got, some, your content is published so that the community can see what it is you're doing. What factors do you consider in using that transparency piece? And then how do you engage community within that transparency? Talk to us a little bit more about that.
I think
So-
oh,
Go ahead.
sorry, go
Sarah.
ahead. I think we use social media is a really great way to engage our families. Our communications director does a really great job of being in buildings, and then we have somebody at every building that really gets the word out about really great things that are happening. And I think one of the things we do really well is focus on the day-to-day, not just the really big things, not just when we bring in an outside guest speaker, but really what does day-to-day learning look like in our classrooms, and making sure that we're engaging our community and welcoming them into those things. And then I think in a lot of our buildings, we have open houses or different, they're called something different in every building, but some way of showcasing the learning that's happening at each level and allowing community members to come in. Obviously, pre-COVID, that there was a lot more of that, and we've had some restrictions over the last 2 years, and we're hoping that a lot of those barriers will start to subside and we can do a little bit more. But really welcoming to showcase what our students do, and really foundationing on, like, we follow what our state has adopted, and we really make sure that we're teaching what we're supposed to be teaching, which sounds like an obvious thing, but I do think that's what's important, is for our students' continuation of learning.
No, that was excellent. I'll just echo a couple things. I was going to mention Kayla too, our communications coordinator. So important on popping out that message. And as educators, we think about, we're going to educate our kids, we're going to do this, but even getting that message out is extremely important, and bringing in those partnerships, like Sarah said. So beyond Kayla popping it out on social media, and we have a Braves newsletter that goes to community members and parents. We also have one that goes to staff to make sure that they're kept up to date. Our superintendent, assistant superintendent, and various other employees always attend the local community organizations, and they will go there and showcase some of the things that were going on, our goals, student showcase work, and they'll bring students in to talk about projects as well. Because really throughout the year, we're really connecting with our business partners, and we don't want it always to be that we want something. Hey, do you have an internship opportunity for this? Or would you like to sponsor this project? So we want to come in and show what our philosophy is and what we're about and what we're trying to accomplish with our learning experiences for our kids. And that has made a huge difference. We've hit every community organization, and they've partnered with us, and they do various things, whether sponsoring lunches to certain equipment and materials that have come in. But they always invite us back multiple times to talk about what's going on in the district and just kind of share. So that's kind of really been a great thing. And then, it's important. Our assistant superintendent always tells us, well, the story is going to be told. So who do you want to tell the story? Someone who doesn't know, or those of us that are in here and know exactly what it is? So it's important to get that message out. And it's hard, like I said, as educators, as teachers, that's not your thing. You want to go out and, oh, this is what I'm doing. I want to teach and I want to see my kids progress. But it is important because it's our story to tell. And it's important that people are involved and know the outstanding things going on. We have outstanding staff, outstanding students, and some really great opportunities for our kids going on in the district.
Yeah, and I think that is so true. I used to say that as well. The story is going to be told. So we need to be proactive, and that's usually not our role as educators. We're like, oh, we don't care, but the reality is now, especially with some of the eroding of public trust in schools, I think that transparency really helps take those barriers down of, we're not hiding anything, and we're not, doing anything outside of what the state has put in place as far as the standards we're required to teach. So I think any of those opportunities lend themselves to a great conversation. you guys have mentioned a lot of great practices already. Number one, if curriculum's important, then it's important enough to do more than just in the summertime. Make it part of your ongoing process, and having teachers, especially if you can embed it within the school day, because we all know that teachers are doing many things and their responsibilities are huge. And if you're in a smaller district and they're helping to write the curriculum and pull resources and things in place, having that time embedded within the day, or staff development days where the kids aren't there but the teachers come and they can work for a full day on curriculum and instructional practice, that's really beneficial. So kudos to you all for that. Showcasing your kids. I always said, who can resist having students stand up? We can tell the message, and it's always filtered with, oh yeah, they're the adults, that's what they're supposed to say. But when you put kids out there and let kids showcase, it does a couple of things. One is it lets the public know what's going on, and it also lets them, there's this myth about kids these days. And when you put students in front of groups or organizations and you let them talk, it just changes that whole perception of what media shares as well. So those are some great examples of best practices. Some of the things that we may want to also consider is, what are your policies on curriculum adoption and community involvement? I know in the state of Texas, there's a requirement that when you get ready to do textbook adoptions, there has to be a process in place to involve parents in that. So how do you utilize them in picking resources? How do you set up your curriculum to be shared? We had in my former district as a curriculum director, the curriculum coordinators were taking the content and creating, public facing documents and trying to keep those updated, and how you update those. So how are you guys doing that in Bonner Springs?
Well, I will say we have there's a process for everything. So there's a board approved policy for everything. So we have our textbook adoption process. So I'll talk about that. It's board approved. We have a very rigorous rubric that we go through to make sure that we hit all of the elements that are needed to pick out a quality product. And then we have a subcommittee. So it's not an easy, hey, we want this book, we're going to go. We look through at least 3 resources extensively through the rubric. We have our team of teachers that's involved with that, whatever grade level, teach out of it for 2 or 3 weeks. We've been really fortunate that the vendors are really open to that, so that they really get sometimes it looks really nice in the package, but when you go for application, it's different. So that's been a really nice element to have in there. And then once that process is down and it's finalized, that subcommittee puts in their findings and their recommendations. It goes before the whole grade level that's involved, and then that goes to the Board of Education. So that's the process to go through there. And we talk about the process, and we've had the committee come in before too, because the board has questions. But we have a building site council in every building, and a district site council where parents are involved. So they see our processes and they look at the rubrics that we're going through for those processes. So they're not necessarily involved in that individual adoption, but they've seen the rubrics and our process and know what we're looking for to provide that quality experience and know our goals. We want more hands-on learning experiences, integrated experiences for our kids. So that's kind of the process that we've used in the past, and it's worked really well. It's an extensive process with those rubrics, but it does vet it out pretty good.
Yeah, and I think we, talking about how our community is involved, those site council groups really help us think about what are parent and community members' expectations for a student when they leave Bonner Springs High School or when they leave our district, and then how that compares and kind of really isn't very different, but works with what as educators do we expect of our students when they leave. So obviously our parent perspective hat is going to be a little bit different, maybe than what this marking off that a student's mastered every standard, once they've left us. And so really including them and figuring out what should our students be able to know, do, experience, and then that can stay in our minds. I've been in a lot of those textbook adoption committees, both as a teacher in this district and as I've kind of changed positions, and that can really keep a strong idea in the back of your head. Is not only is it what do we want out of a product for our classroom, for how we write learning targets and make sure that we're doing really great formative and summative assessments, but also how is this helping us provide a quality learning experience that goes a little bit beyond, so that we're creating a really effective student when they leave us, or when they go on to the next grade or on to the next school age or whatever.
Yeah, that's that's so exciting to hear about the things that I really like the idea, textbook companies want to sell their product, right? So they're more than willing to let you do that. In my prior role, we actually had them come in and had them walk through what an experience would look like. And we had demonstrations on the top 2 textbooks that we were looking at, resources, and you really got some it or not and how it matched standards, and so that was beneficial as well. I like the idea though of letting the teachers pilot, so to speak, the content as well.
It's really fun to hear what the kids have to say
yes,
too, about a curriculum product. Like it goes to, there are certain things that we really like as teachers, but then when you put something in front of a second grader and say,
yep,
tell me what you think about this, like you're going to get, or a high school, I mean, really any grade, like a kid is going to be very, very honest about like, this is the most boring thing I've ever seen and I never want to do this again.
right.
This is like, this was really exciting and I was engaged and this is what I learned. Like when a kid can tell you what they've learned and you can see them engaging with material, like you can tell what kind of your long-term outcomes are going to be from that. They're very telling.
Yes.
Kids are honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know you both wear many hats and have lots of responsibilities. So how do you determine, what parts of your curriculum are going to be shared? And then how do you go about providing that transparency and sharing that curriculum with your community, internally and externally?
Yeah, internally, I'll go ahead and start. Sarah, jump in too. We're very fortunate that we have an instructional team coming in for this year. So we have an instructional coach in every building. We haven't had that in the past. We've had one. So Sarah is a phenomenal instructional coach. She's going to lead she's moved into a role of director of school improvement services. So she's going to lead the team of instructional coaches. So we'll have that point of contact in the building. So when you relay curriculum and you're going through some of those rich discussions on what activities do we need to have, what's going to provide a quality learning experiences, but how are our kids performing, and picking the best of the best and the most effective ways. It's nice to have a constancy, someone who's going to be there week after week because it's ongoing. In the past, we've had to go like weeks out because we didn't have that constancy. Principals are pulled a million different directions, and it's nice to have that level of investment when teachers have questions and they want to go through that process. So we're excited about that piece, number one. But as far as sharing with them, it's been very transparent. We're really excited about implementing Embarc because in the past we've just done Google. We've evolved to a Google Sheet. It used to be just a folder on FileServe, but we went to a Google Sheet, and there were some limits of frustrations. Everything works out for a reason, but it was like baby steps. So we did the curriculum, put it on. People kind of get used to it, but then there's some frustrations that come from that because you couldn't do lifetime changes or collaborate. And so that's why we're really excited about Embarc and our new program that we can get in and really have that real-time collaboration. And our teachers are excited about that. So because of the process we went through, their feedback was they wanted more. They wanted to be able to interact with the curriculum in a different way than having a static sheet to work from. So we're in a really good place that buy-in is there now because we've gone through those steps prior to. So they're looking forward to this. So for teachers, it's all out there. We're very transparent and we know it's a work in progress. We say it every time because again, you've got people who love it and understand it, and you got, just tell me what to teach, and move forward. So we keep that all encompassed, and we're going to have somebody in with those during PLCs, during that embedded time, to field questions and to help answer some things, resources for teachers. So when they go back and they have the real people in front of them, they know that they feel confident in how they're utilizing the resources. As far as for sharing for our external community, as of right now, we've just had links in. We teach the state standards, so we have links to our parent resources for our Kansas state standards. We know as that changes, we'll be able to share some more things, and that's why, again, we're really excited that we'll have some different avenues through Embarc to be able to share some of the pieces that we want to put out there. Right now, going to community organizations and through social media, we're sharing some of those learning experiences through some videos that we put online. But sometimes it's hard to share some of those activities. Nobody wants to sit there and scroll through a website. So we've got to make it enticing and go grab them. So that's what we've done at this point. But we do have some good ideas for this year coming in to continue with those, just to motivate people and show them what we're doing.
Yeah, just kind of bait the hook, right? To get
exactly
them built into, yes. Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, we're at the point, and I know we're coming up on the end of the time, and so we want to be respectful, but any questions or things that you'd like to ask Christy or Sarah? We'll let you put those in the Q&A chat there. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest pieces. If you can do that work, like you all mentioned about, your PLC time or whatever you call it in your district, but just that planning time with the instructional coaches, and then capturing that within a system like Embarc, or making sure that it keeps the curriculum live, and it allows you to move forward and really look at best practice when you incorporate analyzing student work after they've done the lessons or whatever. Think of the impact that has for a brand new teacher coming in that can access those activities instead of relying on shooting in the dark and looking at the textbook. So
really evens the playing field, going back to that equity piece, which I know is so so important. But
yes, absolutely. Okay, well, I don't see any questions that anybody has. I'll leave that open for a couple more minutes. Just so you know, Education Advanced is built mostly while we're a software company and looking at solutions to help school districts. We are predominantly educators, so we have been in the shoes and feel the pain, and are trying to provide products like Embarc that will manage curriculum, provide you with easy ways of not only publishing, but adjusting your scope and sequences. And we also have Cardonics, which is a master scheduling software tool that actually cuts down that master scheduling build, those of you at the secondary level, from months over the summer to 1 to 2 days. So it's very powerful. And then our Test Town software package helps with test enablement. So tracking state required testing and benchmark testing. And so we're always looking for ways that we can support those of you that are in the trenches and moving forward there. So we want to thank you for attending. Thank you, Christy and Sarah, for sharing with us some great ideas that I know will be beneficial for those in attendance and those that watch this in the future. So if there's anything we can do, please reach out, and hope you have a tremendous start to the 2022-23 school year. Thanks so much, Christy and Sarah.
Thank you.